Hello and welcome to another episode of Learning to Live in the Present Moment. My name is Ted Robinson and I'm your host today. Today we're going to be talking about, as always, the present moment, but something that's very important, and it happened to me, so I want to share it with you. I'll explain it through a story of what happened to me one day recently. I was sitting watching TV, just channel surfing, and I came across The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Well, it's sort of a comedy, and I came in sort of near the middle to end of the movie, and so I was trying to piece it together as I was going along. And here, the primary, Walter Mitty, was a photo editor for Life magazine, and he was in charge of the cover art for Life, which was very important at that time, in case you're not familiar with Life magazine. And he was missing one important photograph, one negative, that would be used for the cover of Life magazine. And he couldn't locate the negative or the photographer who was being played by Sean Penn. So he tracked him down. He was told that he was in the Himalayas and that he was, out there on a camera shoot. And he went to find him. So he trekked and finally found himself up all by himself in the middle of the top of a mountain, about to give up, about to fall over. And he hears this voice saying, "Hey, could you not make so much noise and movement right now?" And turns around, there it is, Sean Penn. So he goes, and Sean was standing behind a camera with a telephoto lens about that big, waiting for a snow leopard to show its face. And so the Walter Mitty, who was Adam Sandler, went and either Adam Sandler or Ben Stiller, I never know which, because I always get them confused, goes and sits down next to him. And he's waiting, and suddenly the snow leopard comes out of its lair, and there's a perfect shot. The leopard is perfectly extended, he's growling, and he's making this beautiful face. It's a perfect picture. And he doesn't take the shot. So Mitty says, "Take the shot." He says nothing. "Take the shot," he says. And then he takes his hand off the camera. He said, "Sometimes I don't like to ruin the present moment." I said, wow. The camera would have ruined it. Wow. I've been there. I did that. It reminded me immediately of when I went to Hawaii for 2 weeks. And the second week I went to the Big Island, which is called Hawaii, and I wanted to see Kilauea, which was the volcano. It was in the midst of erupting at the time, which it doesn't always erupt, but it was erupting at that time. So I went and found a helicopter tour. I got on the tour, and I was loaded for bears, they say. I had a 35 millimeter camera here. I had a video camera over here. I was ready to take pictures, and I even paid the helicopter pilot to take another camera, movie camera, video camera, and give me a VHS at the end of the trip. I was not going to miss this volcano. And so we get up over the volcano, and I'm taking pictures here, and I'm over here. I was a two-handed shooter. It was amazing. Only problem was I missed the volcano, meaning I didn't get to really feel the volcano. I didn't really get to see and take it in personally. I was so busy, making sure I had it right in my camera, making sure the video camera was on and everything was working right, and trying to get a picture out the one window or the other, that I missed the whole thing. But my mind immediately rationalized and said, well, that's okay. I'll watch the shots and the video later. I never did. I effectively missed the moment, many moments over this volcano. But the point is I missed the moment. I was trying so hard to capture the moment that I missed it. Now, I don't know about you, but that's happened to me in other situations too. Has it happened to you? Have you ever planned a party, and as the party is ongoing, you're already worried about what people are going to think and how they're going to react to the food or the entertainment or whatever? Have you ever, in the midst of a party, saying, well, the next time I'm going to do it that way? Have you ever thought about, oh, I could have done it better that way this time? Well, these are all thoughts that are in the ego mind. That's called the ego mind. The conscious mind and the ego mind are interchangeable. And it's always the same with the ego mind. It's either in the future, it's thoughts about the future, thoughts about the past, or judgment. And that's the problem. It doesn't ever allow you to be in the present moment. In fact, in order to be in the present moment, you must quiet your mind, quiet that ego mind, so there is no judgment going on. There is no worry about the future, worry about the past. It's just being here now. That's the present moment. That's presence. And the ego cannot, by definition, be part of that. So, have you had those situations? Have you had a situation where you've, well, I'll share one more with you that was really telling for me. And that was, I was with my mentor, which is my teacher, Leonard Jacobson. And he and I were walking down the street it was just about dusk. And we walked under this tree that had to have 1,000 or 2,000 birds in it, all of them chirping and squealing and making a heck of a racket, but it was very beautiful. It was all these songbirds, you know. And I said, Leonard, listen to the songbirds. And I'm going at it, right? I want to make sure he hears the songbirds. And he went, shh. That's all he did. He didn't say, hey, keep it down or anything like that. He just shh and pointed to the birds. And I suddenly realized, here I am commenting and trying to tell him and trying to define and trying to figure. And all I had to do was just be present. Just be there with the sound of the birds. Have you ever had that happen to you? Well, if you have, just as it happened to me, you miss the moment trying to describe it, trying to take a picture of it, trying to tell others about it, trying to discuss it. Just be there with it. It can be anything that you hear, see, touch, taste, smell, anything like that. You have the capacity and the ability and the opportunity to be with it in that moment, to fully experience it in that moment. And as a result, you don't miss the present moment. So I'm going to be back in a moment to tell you more about that and how to go about it. So don't go away. I'll be right back. Welcome back. So, how can you avoid missing the present moment? Well, the opposite of that is learning to live in the present moment. That's what this show is all about. If you can learn to live in the present moment, you will never miss the present moment. That's the idea, or seldom miss it. You see, the universe, life, presents a new opportunity to be in the present moment every moment of every day of your life. Always available to you. It's your choice as to whether you allow it to be missed or whether you allow yourself to overwhelm it with expectations, demands, descriptions, or any number of things, trying to capture it. All those things are what you do to the present moment that you could otherwise be present in. So, the first thing to do is recognize when something is there for you, with you, being there with you. It would be a wise idea to be there with it. You don't have to describe it. You don't have to organize it. You don't have to capture it. You don't have to do anything except be there. That's right. It may sound very ordinary to just be with something. But I can assure you that if you do it without the mind, in other words, if you can quiet your conscious ego mind sufficiently to just be there with it, everything about the moment changes. If you're watching a sunset, it seems to me, from my experiences, that the colors grow more intense. The details of the sunset become more intense, and you actually live that sunset with it. If you're eating a meal and you actually take the time to pull the fork back over your lips and just feel the textures of the food, taste them, smell them, be with it, you'll find that the food is much, much more interesting, much, much more well received by your body, and more well used by your body because you're present with it. When you're walking, if you just become aware of 3 steps, just 1, 2, 3, that brings you back to now. And you're not lost in thought. You're not thinking of this, thinking of that. You're just taking those 3 steps in presence. That's a very valuable thing to do, because when you're able to do that, you are here. You are fully here now. Now, even as I'm saying this, it occurs to me to say, well, so what? But I happen to know from my own experiences that so what is very important. Truly being here now means you don't discard anything that's happening to you. You don't just disregard it. You see, the way the ego mind works is it likes to identify. It likes to identify so that it can organize, so it can define and know what things are. So if you tell the mind, China, well, China conjures up certain thoughts, right? It has mountains, it has inexpensive labor, it has rice paddies, it has all kinds of things. And all those things may immediately come to your mind. But it's not China. It's a bunch of memories of what you know of China is. The only way you know China is to be in China. Experience China. Experience what it's like to be there in that moment. And feel, sense, smell, touch, feel, taste China. Then you'll know China. So what happens, however, is the mind tends to want to understand things so that it can then define them, like I said a moment ago, and then pigeonhole them. Say, oh, China, that belongs in that pigeonhole over there. Somebody says, have you ever seen the eagles? Oh, yeah, I saw them 40 years ago when they were still young. And suddenly, where's that person's comment coming from? The ego. I saw them 40 years ago when they were still young. First off, take it apart. I saw them 40 years ago. Truth, no problem with that. But there's a certain ego attitude with it. When I saw them when they were young, that makes me better than anybody who sees them today. As a result of that, the ego sort of brushes it aside. The eagles, oh, they're passé. They're gone. But the person that leaves their mind open and can be in the present moment can see the benefit of being at an Eagles concert now, as they've become wise and older and more accomplished in whatever they do. You see, it's all about the ego, always taking an attitude about things that keeps us from the present moment, that keeps us away from it, that keeps it in definition as opposed to experience. And that's the difference. So whenever somebody is an ego, they're judging things. Oh, this is better than that. That's no good. I've been there, done that, and got the t-shirt. These are the kind of phrases that you'll see are from the ego. Now, please understand, the ego is not bad. There's nothing wrong with the ego. That's not what I'm saying here at all. What I am trying to say is that once you've been someplace, you can rely upon your memory and disregard any new experiences of that, or you can just have another experience and see how that changes. See what happens as a result of that. You may be very surprised to see what it's like when you actually experience things new, fresh, for the first time, even if you've been there before, and you see it with new eyes, now eyes, in the present moment. That's what we're speaking of here. So, the first thing to do is watch your mind, watch your ego mind. I call it the watcher. I always put my hand up like this to say, here's the watcher. Just behind my eyes can see my fingertips right there, but they can't see them here. The watcher's just watching, observing, keeping track. And when the ego does its little thing, it kind of comes out of its lair, almost like one of those eels, moray eel. Well, the ego does not like to be caught doing its little deals. So if you're the watcher and it comes out of its lair, all of a sudden it sees you, it pulls back. It does not want to be seen doing this, whatever it may be. So all you have to do is become observant, become the watcher, and everything will change with regard to you and your ego. Your ego will withdraw. It will not pursue it because it really doesn't want to be seen doing it. So that's one way you can deal with it. Another way is just to simply say, okay, ego, I see what you're up to. Thank you very much. There's nothing wrong with what the ego does. The only time the ego you have a problem with the ego is when it gets carried away with itself and thinks it's all about the ego and its judgments and its past and future references and thoughts. That's the only time the ego really presents a problem, because it takes control and wants to run off with the ball, as they say. Instead of that, if you can simply say to the ego, okay, ego, I see what you're saying, I see what you're doing. We're not going to do it that way. We're not going to judge it. We're just going to be here with it and see what evolves. That takes all the power out of the ego. It thanks the ego because we don't want to have a fight with the ego. We really don't want to do that. We want to have no fights, and we want to actually get along with the ego as best we can. And love the ego, because the ego is there for you, trying to do its best to protect you and take care of you and all the rest of it. So we don't want to really see the ego in a negative light. That's not what this is about. All it is about is seeing the ego for what it is. Me, mine, my, and everything about me. And so if we can come outside of ourselves, we will find that the world is a very different place. It's not all about me. In fact, it's probably better if it's all about you. That's the idea. Make it about everybody but yourself and watch what happens. The Course in Miracles talks about if you want something, give it. If you want to receive, first give it. And you'll see big changes. Because that's the idea. That's the miracle of life. When you give, you shall receive. So, secondly, I have more to tell you about the ego and how it relates to all this, and how you can actually not miss the present moment. And I'll do that in just a moment. So don't go away. I'll be right back. Welcome back. So what you can do about not missing the ego, the moment, is to recognize the moment as it arises. See it as it hits. See it and go, oh. Be awestruck by the present moment. Be in awe of what's there. Whether it's you eating, smelling a fragrance of food or flowers or perfume or anything else. Hearing, you can be present with what you hear. Listen to the music. Listen to the sigh of a baby. Touching. Tactile touching is very wonderful. Massage one another. Be massaged or give a massage and see how wonderful it is just to touch. Touch a tree. Touch a leaf. Feel what it feels like to run your hands over something that is present like this plant. That's the idea. Feel the differences and without judging, just feel. Very different, but both are fine. One is not better than the other, they're just different. You can, so you can touch, taste, see whatever you see, smell and taste. And those are your basics that you can use to become present. When you have the opportunity, notice it. That's the first step. Notice it. And once you notice it, do something about it. Be present with it. And just be in awe for a few moments. Be in innocence and in awe. And watch how it changes you and it. The moment itself will change just because you are there. This plant has been waiting for me just to be doing this, just to be touching it. And I'm sure you have one in your house or nearby. All you need to do is just be there with it. If somebody's talking to you, instead of checking your mobile phone while they're talking, or instead of texting while they're talking and looking occasionally at them, pay full attention to them. Look them in the eyes. Be there with them and you'll see major shifts. As you eat your food, be there fully with it. Smell it first. Take it and put it right up to your nose and smell it. And taste it. Feel it. And then swallow it. And watch the difference in how you eat your food. You won't eat as much food, I guarantee it. Because everything that you eat will be much, much more fulfilling. And you'll know what you're taking into your body will be benefiting you. It's all somewhat common sense, but the idea is we've lost that sense. We tend to take the shot instead of taking the moment and being in the moment. And that's the idea. Be in that moment. Don't ruin it by taking the shot. Be in the moment. Don't ruin it by talking about it, thinking about it, criticizing it, or commenting about it. Just be in the moment. When you do that, everything will change. And you'll be a very happy camper as a result, I can tell you now. Everything changes. So I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope that it gives you an idea that if you don't miss the present moment, that means you are learning to live in the present moment. And that's the whole idea of this show. I hope this has been helpful, giving you the reversed view of it to get you to the same place. By the way, each Wednesday night between 7 and 9 p.m., we hold a borrowing benefits group here at our Center for Inner Healing, which is located at 26 St. Paul's Place, Hempstead, New York, 11550. You can call us or contact us by getting our information at centerforinnerhealing.com. And our phone number is 516-248-6600. 516-248-6600. We also have a Sunday night tapathon, which we do for free on the telephone. And you're invited to come and join us at all these different things. We'll be also teaching soon. So there's a lot going on here. We want to share it with you. So that's about it for today. We hope this has been helpful. We'll see you next time, same place, as we learn to live in the present moment together. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.